Alright, YouTubers, welcome back to War Thunder with the Angry Nerd. Today we will be looking at some of the American Tier 2, Rank 2 fighter aircraft, specifically the Airacobras and the P-400. Now looking at the tree, far left column, fourth tab down, you can see the tab with the multiple planes there. Click on that and you open up the three tabs, one for the P-400, one for the P-39 N-O, and one for the P-39 Q-5. You can reach these aircraft after researching the P-36s and the P-40. So let's take a quick look at these, the P-39, and we'll go over a little bit of history because I was quite curious about the design of this aircraft, and so I did a little research to find out a little more about it. And what I found out was that in 1937 there were two Army Air Corps officers that put in, or they issued a specification for a new fighter, or they referred to it as an interceptor. And the reason why they used the name interceptor was because at that time the Army Air Corps had specific regulations on, up until then, what was pursuit aircraft or fighter aircraft. And the regulations were that a pursuit aircraft could not carry more than 500 pounds of ammunition and weaponry combined. And what they were looking for was a plane that could carry at least 1,000 pounds of weaponry and ammunition. And what they specifically wanted in this aircraft was a cannon, and they also wanted a liquid-cooled Allison engine with a turbo supercharger and tricycle landing gear, and they wanted it to be able to have level airspeed of 360 miles per hour at altitude, and wanted it to be able to climb to 20,000 feet within 6 minutes. And so with that specification put out there, the Bell Aircraft Company submitted a design which would become the XP-39, and it was a very unconventional design, with the engine sitting behind the pilot, and there's a drive shaft that ran underneath the pilot's cockpit, underneath the floorboard, to almost like a gearbox or a small transmission that then went up and drove the rotor. But that meant that, you know, there was lots of space up in this nose cone right here for that, the 37 millimeter T9 cannon was made by the American Armament Company, which is a division, or was a division, of the Oldsmobile company, and Oldsmobile was a car company. So this plane was the first fighter conceived as a weapons system. So they designed it around a cannon, basically. And so this one, the P-39 N-0, you see it here, is equipped with the 37mm, 250 cals up there in the nose, and then 4 7.62 machine guns in the wing. Now, during the testing phase for the XP-39, one of those Army Air Corps officers, Lieutenant Kelsey, was going to oversee the testing and stuff of the aircraft. And when the Bell Company originally designed the aircraft, they did design it with the turbo supercharger to increase its high speed, or not high speed, but high altitude performance. Because the turbo compressing the air and stuff, when you're at altitude and the air is thin, you need that extra compression to get the performance out of the aircraft. But the officer, Lieutenant Kelsey, was transferred back to England, and he was not able to oversee the testing phase of the aircraft, and that was handed over to General Henry H. Arnold. And General Arnold instructed the prototype to be wind tunnel tested to see if there was a way to reduce parasitic drag, the aerodynamics of the aircraft, to increase its speed. Now, when Bell designed the plane, it had an intake on the left side of the fuselage, which was specific for cooling that turbocharger. And during the wind tunnel testing, it was determined that they could increase the airspeed of the aircraft by removing that intake and doing some other tweaks to reduce the parasitic drag. So they removed the turbo supercharger and replaced it with a standard supercharger. But this greatly reduced its high-speed performance, although it did increase the or not high-speed performance, it greatly reduced its high-altitude performance, but it did increase its speed somewhat. And so after those wind tunnel testing, or the wind tunnel test, the remaining XP-39s, or what was referred to at that time was the YP-39 prototypes, were all they were all reconfigured to the new standard without the turbo supercharger. And so the XP-39 prototypes did not have self-sealing fuel tanks, and they did not have armor plating. And so in, let's see, in on April 6, 1938, the XP-39 made its maiden flight, and it achieved 290 miles per hour at 20,000 feet. And it reached the 20,000 feet in 5 minutes. But the top speed was not the 400 miles per hour, which was claimed in the original proposal, or it had greatly reduced the high altitude performance of the aircraft. But the Army placed an order, or the Army Air Corps placed an order for 80 aircraft, and it was originally going to be designated the P-45. But before the first deliveries began, they redesignated the aircraft to the P-39C. And after assessing the aerial combat conditions in Europe, it was evident to them that the lack of self-sealing fuel tanks and armor, that the P-39Cs were not going to be suitable for operational use over in Europe. And the remaining 60 aircraft were upgraded with the self-sealing fuel tanks and the armor, and they were redesignated the P-39D. And those were the first models to see service with the U.S. Army Air Corps. And they would also be the first models to see action. But the absence of the turbo supercharger limited the P-39 to low altitude work. Now, with the original design with the engine here in the back, it didn't leave room for a fuselage mounted fuel tank. And so the fuel tanks were placed in the wings of the aircraft, and that limited the amount of fuel that could be carried in the aircraft. And that also limited the P-39 to short range missions. So it was not a good altitude performer, and it didn't have a good range on it. Now, drop tanks were implemented to increase the range, but still, with its normal range being so short, it was not as effective as a regular fighter that could also carry drop tanks. In 1940, the British Direct Purchase Commission was in the United States looking for combat aircraft, and at that time the British were really in need of some combat aircraft, dealing with Germany. And so they had looked at the P-39, and they had looked at the XP-39 prototype, and they got their performance expectations based off of the prototype's performance, which was unarmed and unarmored. So its performance was much better than the production aircraft that came with the self-sealing fuel tanks and the armor plating and the armament. So it was a good bit heavier than those prototypes. But the British did, however, order 675 of the P-39s. But the British requested that the 37mm cannon be removed and replaced by a 20mm Hispano cannon. And they also wanted the 7.62 millimeter machine guns replaced with the 7.7 millimeter machine guns, because the British mostly used the 7.7s in their stuff, and that's what they had ammo and stuff for. So it just made it more sensible that the new plane should be using the stuff that they were already using, although it was a Browning machine gun and not a Vickers. So these new aircraft with the 20mm and the 7.7s that they ordered were going to be referred to as the Caribou. And when the first Caribous arrived, they went to the 601st Squadron RAF in September of 1941, and it was immediately recognized that they had an inadequate rate of climb and altitude performance to be able to compete in the Western European theater. And only 80 of the 600, or the British only took 80 of the 675 that they had ordered. And they promptly sent most of their order. They immediately sent 200 of the aircraft to the Soviet Union, and they renamed those export versions the Airacobra in 1941. And since the British didn't want the remaining planes that they had ordered, the United States Army Air Corps requisitioned 200 aircraft of the British order and renamed them the P-400. So that's where we get the P-400. P-400 came out of that British order. So the Army Air Corps took 200 of the P-39s, or the Caribous, renamed them the P-400s, and shipped them off to the Southwest Pacific, where they operated with the Cactus Air Force. They saw battle Guadalcanal, but they were not popular with the pilots at all. But you know, all three of these planes have the basic same airframe and flight characteristics. So if you're wondering where the 20 millimeter version came from, it wasn't like a predecessor to the P-39. It was just a modification that the British had requested, and that the Army Air Corps had taken some of that order and designated them the P-400s. Now the most of the P-39s went to the Soviet Union. And the first ones that the Soviet Union received, they got from the British. And they had that 20 millimeter Hispano cannon. And the two heavy Browning machine guns in the nose. And the later Cobras that they got through the Lend-Lease program had the 37mm cannon. And so what the Soviets did, let's switch over here to the Soviet aircraft, jump in the tree for a second. P-39, let's click this, nope, cancel. Click this, that'll let us look. And what the Soviets did, they don't show it on this model, but what a lot of the Soviets did, not all of them, but they removed these wing-mounted 7.62 millimeter guns, and what that did was, by removing them, they just left the 37mm in the nose along with the 250s, and that modification improved the roll rate of the aircraft. By not having that weight in the wings, it reduced the rotational inertia of the aircraft, and these 7.62 millimeters weren't hitting on a lot anyway, so they just took them out. And then jump back over here to the Americans, the Q models that they had, you know, these extra 50 cals were slung under these pods, so they didn't even pod up. Some of them, most of them had just the 250s and the 37 millimeter, but they were used with great success by the Soviet Air Force, and using it they scored the highest number of individual kills attributed to any U.S. fighter type. Now that's not the highest kill ratio, that's just the individual kills themselves. But the Airacobras were eventually used in one, I mean, there were many different versions of the Airacobra, but in all its versions it saw service with Australia and France, Italy, Poland, Portugal, Soviet Union, United Kingdom, and the United States. But it just was not a mainline fighter for the Americans or the British because of its high altitude performance and short range that it had. But it was a really, really unique design. Now, in game, this translates into the following. The P-400 is a rank 2 with a battle rating of 3. It has a max speed of 378 miles per hour and a 22.6 second turn time. And it comes equipped with 4 7.62 millimeter Browning machine guns, 2 12.7 M250 cals, and 1 20 millimeter Hispano cannon. The P-39N-0 is a rank 2 with a battle rating of 3.3 with a max speed of 389 miles per hour, 22 second turn time. It comes equipped with 4 7.62 millimeters, 2 12.7 50 cals, and 1 37 millimeter cannon. And the P-39Q5 is a rank 2 with a battle rating of 3.3, 386 miles per hour, 21.9 second turn time, It comes equipped with 4 12.7 millimeter M250 cals and 1 37 millimeter. Now these aircraft in game can be equipped with rockets. The P-39 Q5 can get rockets as a secondary weapons load, along with the P-39N-0. But unless you're going to be attacking ground targets, you got a 37 millimeter cannon. Why you need to slow your airplane down with carrying some rockets? The P-400 has no secondary armament on it whatsoever. Now, mouse aim mode, the planes are a nice stable firing platform. You don't get as much recoil from the firing of the 37 millimeter and stuff, but I usually fly with the joystick, and I find these 3 planes very difficult to control with the joystick. It's just hard to keep that reticle on the target. They're very twitchy. That being said, when you hit something with the 37 millimeter cannon, it usually goes boom. So I need that. If these planes did not have the firepower that they have, I would not fly them at all, because they're difficult for me to aim. So the few shots that I am able to land on an enemy aircraft, I need it to do some damage when it hits, because I can't stay on target that long. So I don't fly these a lot. I usually stick to the like the P-40s, the stuff that is a little easier for me to keep my reticle at least close to on target. But if you're in mouse aim, you can do some great damage with these in your lineup. So, that being said, why don't we jump in to a mission and see what we can do with the P-39s and the P-400. Alright, maybe we'll get a good map this time. African Canyon. Ground strike. Okay, I think we'll start off with the P-39 Q5 and work our way backwards. Okay, let's gain some altitude. Make sure we're not really flying straight into anybody. Round her over before we lose too much airspeed. Let's see, I think we'll go off to the right. Well, maybe not. There's a KI-45 down here. I might have to go play with him. Tell you the truth. Put this 37mm cannon to good use. Okay, let's go ahead and reload. Put the machine guns back up. SPD seems to be the closest person to us right this minute. Clipped him a little bit, but not enough to bring him down. Got him that time. Go ahead and reload. Wait, hey. That's no good. Somebody was shooting at me. I hate head-on passes. I hope he's not wanting to go for one. And this person is on me like stink on crap. I got a little bit of a damaged engine, so I'm not getting full performance out of it. Okay, so let's see. Here comes this F4U again. Run and hide, run and hide. Let's see who we got back here. It's a yak. And let's see. And the yak finally got me down. No, P400. P400 brought me down. Okay, let's go, let's go. Well, we got 4. And now I got a plane that's back up to full health, so that's good. P-25 up top, P-400, P-40, P-39. I'm going to go after the P-400. He's on a friendly TBF. You would think I would be able to outrun the P-40, but evidently that is not the case. It's crazy. Okay, B-25. No, I'm gonna go after the P-39. Then I'm gonna go after the B-25. Oh no, he devastated me. Wow, he spanked that ass. Oh, okay. So I'm down to the P400. And this is it. That's what it looks like. It's only got a 20 mil. And there are lots of bad guys over here. TR-42 took a run at me. Okay, got him. I think there's still CR-42 after me. He is trying to work me over. Oh, it's a BF-109. Alrighty there. Let's see. So it wasn't horrible. We did attain the fighter award. We knocked down 10 enemy aircraft. I'm counting that last one. We lost 2 planes, and really I lost that third one because I was heading into the hill anyway. And let's see. For the premium bonus, we got an extra 12,978 Lions, another 1,704 modification research, and another 508 vehicle research. That's what I attained for having a premium account. Altogether, 37,287 Lions, 10 aircraft destroyed, first place in the team. Yeah, so for me, for the P400, the P-39, and the two P-39s, pretty good game. I do have a hard time controlling these aircraft with a joystick. So here's what my beat up planes look like. And if you don't know, you get this little wrench down here at the bottom, and that'll tell you how much it costs to repair each aircraft. And if you don't want to repair them one by one, you can hit the research. You can come all the way over to the right and hit repair all. Or you can come over to the right and just automatically repair of all vehicles after battle. And since I like to see what my repairs cost in reference to what I earned. I don't know why. Some reason I just like to do that. But anyway, there you are. The P400, the P-39NO, and the P-39Q5. If you liked it, like it, and share it, please. And if you disliked it, don't. And if you would like to see more content from the Angry Nerd, subscribe and let me know in the comments how you think we're doing. And as always, thanks for watching. Nerd out.